the lead management module, what this does is it plugs into every website. Basically, all your websites can be pulled, your leads from those can be pulled into the lead management module here. So, and then what you can do is you can sort and search and kind of filter by anything that you choose. So all these columns right here, these are all customizable, and everything that can be searched is one of those columns. So maybe the missing piece is if you go over here to like website forms, every website, every company, that's kind of like in our system, a company is essentially a website. So every company has its own form. And then you can reuse the same form, or you can make a new one for your companies. Okay, so these are some of the, so there's like this association between your website and this form. So I'll show you an example. So this is a form here. This is our form builder. So you basically can choose fields from the right, and then you add them over here, and this is what is actually in the form. So there's a couple points of confusion with this system, and I've thought about how to make it simpler, and I haven't come up with a good way to do it, but it's coming from the fact that this is like a really, there's a lot of options and there's a lot of flexibility. So it's hard to make that simple when you have all these different ways that you can twist and bend it, right? So, but all the fields that are in here are what's on the form. These fields do not need to be on your website, but it just kind of like plugs into here. So for instance, maybe you have like commission, I think is what you mentioned, right? Like if you have like some sort of commission deal, what I could do is I could make a field, and I'm going to get this option when I try to create a new field, right? So I have all these different things to choose from. So these are all the things that, you know, if you're using like WordPress or Weebly or Snaps or whatever it is, whenever you build a form, you have all these options, right? So this is just like that. So a text field, that's usually going to be for like a phone number, an email, this type of information. Checkbox, that might be, hey, you need landscaping. What services do you need? I need like tree trimming, tree removal, and you can have people like make multiple checks, right? We've got radio buttons. So typically that's going to be like a yes or a no situation. You've got your select, which is like a drop-down box, right? So I could choose between one of several different options that are preset. We've got autocomplete, which just allows you to type, maybe if you've got like state, if you've got like a nationwide thing and you want to have the person type in the first few letters, and then it will choose from that. Text area is kind of like the comments box, like where you're going to type in a sentence where it's like, hey, I've got a tree in my backyard and I need to have it removed. It's hanging over the fence. Someone wants to type in all this like stuff, and it's a little bit bigger, right? This text area 1 is kind of like a special field. You get questions with this sometimes. Notice that it says check for spam. So those keywords on your spam list within, and we'll go over this in just a minute, Lou. So those keywords, if you click on this button, it's going to check this keywords. This is the only field that it will check the keywords in, because this is the one that's kind of meant to be an area where people are going to type in sentences. The other ones we have, like phone and email, we have specific filters for those. Okay, so let's say I want for commission, what type of field am I going to want to use? Probably a text field, because that's going to be a number that's going to change. It's not something that we can just define, right? So, and then maybe I'm going to make this called commission amounts. And it's important, if you want to look professional, to be able to spell. Okay, so commission amounts, right? And I'm going to leave this other stuff blank. Okay, and now I've added it over here into this custom field. So you can make as many of these custom fields as you like. And I'm just going to add it over into this form here. So now it's on the bottom here. And if I want to put it in a different spot, I can drag it around. So I said earlier, not all of these fields have to show up on your actual website. So there's a few different ways that you can get the data from your website into these fields. So it's kind of like, let's go back one second, because I know this can be confusing for people. This is probably one of the areas that causes the most confusion in our system. So what we need to do is we need to take like data that comes in from your form submission on your website and stick it kind of in these holes, right? It's got to know where to put it. So it's important, whatever fields you have on your website, that they're on the form, but the fields that are on the form, they don't necessarily need to be on your website, right? Like we wouldn't want to put commission amount on your website. Okay, so let's go back over here. You can use this in a few different ways, right? So Lou, what types of sites are you using? Weebly?
No, I'm on Snaps now.
Oh, you're on Snaps? Okay, so with Snaps, the best option is probably our embeddable form, right? So you can build the form within our system, and then you can paste a little piece of code into Snaps. It'll work on every website that's out there because it's just basic HTML, which is like what web pages are built in. So, but how do we control which one of these fields from here actually show up on the website? So there's this little guy right here next to each field, and he kind of helps us out. So if I click on him, I can say whether it's included in the embedded form, right? So that decides. And then also I can control whether this field is visible to our clients. It has to be visible to be able to be editable. So for commission, for tracking your commission, let's go look at that one. So the way I would set this up, I'll click on this little guy. I don't want this to show up on the website, so I'm going to uncheck that one. I don't want, so the lead email, as a lead comes in and it gets sent to your client, this field shouldn't be included in that email because this is something we're just kind of managing internally. It's not like the lead information getting passed to our client. So I'm going to turn that off, but I'm going to allow the clients to see it and edit it. So that means if your client logs in and he goes and looks at this, he can see this field and he can actually make changes to this field. Okay, so I'm going to click on save and I'll click save over here. Okay, so now this is my general leads template. Okay, so some companies are using this and some companies aren't. I'm just going to go back to, I'm going to go back a step here to look at which one of our sites are using this template here, the general leads template. So we can see that Bob's Barnes is one of the companies that's using it. So if I go to add a new lead for Bob's Barnes, it's going to have all these fields because, right? So there it is. There's like a commission amount right here. Okay. So now my client could log in if this was like a real lead. So let's just say Patrick, and then it looks like email is required. So bob@aol.com. This bob@aol.com. If I ever meet this guy, who owns this, he's going to beat me up because he's received countless tests from me over the years. All right. So we're going to leave this blank. Maybe I'll just put a message in here. Hey, I need some tree work done at my house. Okay. So let's pretend that this lead came through as a form submission from this tree site. And it's in here and this is it. And like, it will be sent to our client. So kind of like an important concept to understand with how this works is lead flow. So it's kind of the cornerstone to the system for lead management. So if we look at this cool picture that we have here, I'm just gonna make it a little bigger so you guys can see this. So as somebody comes to our website, right, they visit our tree care website, there's really three things they're gonna do. First thing, which they're gonna do most of the time, unfortunately, no matter how awesome we are, is they're gonna leave our website and nothing's gonna happen. So a good conversion rate might be like 5 to 8%. Right, so that means 92 to 95% of the time, they're just going to be leaving. Just like most people just don't buy on the first time. It's just not how it works. Sometimes what they're going to do is they're going to call us. So they're going to call us, and then there's like a couple of different pathways. So down here, the goal of the lead management system is really to get the lead to the client. And we use a few different things to make sure that's happening. We have a field called progress, which is like tracking whether the lead's been sent to the actual client or not. So if it's a phone call, it's going to come in, and we've got a few different common patterns that probably exist in your guys' agencies. So the first one is the call is forwarded directly to your client, right? So they receive the lead, and that's kind of like the finish line. They get it. So the role that lead generated plays in that situation is it's just like tracking that call. So we're not really doing much. If you're using CallSling or the Zapier connection, then it's tracking it and it's in our system, right? So maybe sometimes, Lou, you don't have a client yet, right? So you're answering the call, and then you're trying to use this as kind of a carrot to find new clients, right? So hold on one second. My man, Jason, I'm just going to mute you, brother, because we're getting a little feedback from you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No worries, man. If you need to, if you have a question, just unmute yourself. Okay. So you take the call and you're answering the call, and then you're going to find a client to send it to, or perhaps you're in the situation. So in the agency with Jeff and I, we have a few clients where we have to take the calls for one reason or another. Maybe this client does this type of work and this client does another type, and we don't want to waste the lead. So we put a receptionist there and they take the calls and make the decision and they send them out. Or one guy covers the north part of town, the other guy covers the south part of town. So there's a lot of situations where that can happen. So in this way, you're going to enter your lead manually. And that's what I just did. I made that lead manually. I came over here and I clicked on add new lead and filled out that little form. Okay, so, and then the lead is going to get added in, and then it's going to get sent to the client manually. So then that's the touchdown. It gets to the finish line there. They receive it. With the form submissions, the way this works, and this is where this system, I mean, this is obviously super useful, but it really shines with this form submission because there's a ton of automation that's happening here. So you connect your site from Snaps or whatever, and it comes inside here, and it's going to instantly be available inside of our system. And we're going to look at the spam rules, and we're going to look at that message, and we're going to be like, it's our spam. It's kind of like a bouncer standing there saying like, are we going to let you in or not? So based on the rules, it's going to say, yes, you're good to go, or no, you're not. So when you use that embedded form, one of the really powerful things that you can take advantage of is our IP address filter. So these spam filters, it says WordPress only. That's actually not true. It's the embed forms as well. So 99% of the spam that's hitting our agency is coming from outside the United States, or like, you know, a lot of it's like, I don't know if you guys have a lot of lead gens in China and Russia, but that's where most of it's coming. So you can block out these sites. So what I do in my agency, since all mine are in the United States, is I'll just block out the entire world except for like the United States and Canada. You see, I have the United States unchecked here. So it's able to pull that IP address. It knows where it's coming from. It doesn't matter what they type. It's automatically going to block it. So in my agency, with between 300 and 400 sites, we get about 16,000 spam messages a month. Okay. This thing, I think it's been 6 months since we've had a real message get mixed in with the spam. And that's because they did something weird. I think it was for like a swimming pool building contractor. And they said, hey, I saw those sexy swimming pools you have on your site. And we had sexy as a keyword, right? So it marked it as spam. So, but most of the time people don't do strange stuff like that, right? So, and then there's probably like, I don't know, maybe 10 leads or 15 leads a month that get through our spam filters. And then we look at them and we adjust and we make it harder for those to get through next month. So we have, I don't know what the math is, but 10 to 15 leads, and we're probably getting 10,000 leads a month for our clients. It's really, really strong to not have to make that decision 16,000 times on whether this is real or not, right? So that's kind of how that's working there. So if we go back to our awesome graph here, if it decides that it's spam, it's going to leave it in that quarantine area for 30 days. And if it's not, it's going to let it through, and it's going to go to this next step, and it's going to look to see if auto forwarding is turned on. So if auto forwarding is turned on, then it's automatically going to send it to the client that's assigned to it. And you can turn it on for one client and not another if you have it sent to, if you have multiple clients associated with the company. If it's not turned on, it's just going to sit there and wait for you to make a decision. So you give you the option to make it automated or manual.
I'm getting sleepy.
Yeah. Nikel, I am also going to mute you just because we're getting some feedback from you, man. But if you got a question, feel free to unmute. Okay, so that's kind of how that's working, right? So if we go back here, now that we have this overview, this one has not been sent. I created it manually. If I click on email lead, if I had a client assigned to this, which I do not apparently, because this is just dummy data with a fictional, client or fictional company, but my client can log in and see this. Since they have a login, they can come in. They could say, hey, we closed that deal, and the commission amount should be $400. Or maybe you want to put like closed deal amount, and you can figure out your own commission, right? So now you have that tracked, and this is where this gets really powerful. So let's step back to all leads. So you can create all of these columns. You can add any of these. So we added commission amount, right? So if I look, there's commission amount. I can click on save, and that's going to be displayed here now. And I can add in filters if I want to, like, hey, show me the commission, like show me the ones that have this commission amount, right? I don't know where it is. It's on here somewhere, commission amount, right? So then I can search by this stuff. So what this means is that you guys have the ability to basically build this CRM to work how you want it, track whatever you want, sort, search, filter on whatever you want. So that's kind of the trade-off for, yeah, it's a little bit, there's some confusing areas on how this works, but with that comes a lot of power to be able to kind of bend and twist this thing however you want, you know, and I can go through and mix all these filters together, right? You have the ability up here to export these. So you could export these to a spreadsheet. So also, like, let's say you've got like all these different clients and you want to, like, this is where you wouldn't want to put this stuff in Google Sheets, Lou, if you're paying for the software, have it all come in here, right? And then you can look at it a million different ways, where Google Sheets, it's just going to be really hard for you to make those filters. Every company is going to have its own dashboard here, right? So I've got these different dashboards. Hang on one second. Let me load this thing up with some dummy data from the back end real quick. So the dashboards are really powerful. You can look at things a lot of different ways. And just give me one second. There's all sorts of graphs. And, you know, if we go over here, where is it? Leads. Do we not have that graph on here? Maybe it's the, oh, there we go. So you can start looking at things by progress, by type, by source. And then if you were to go to the actual client, let me find a client here. So if you go down here to settings and then users, all users, let's log in here. And we were to go and look at one of these clients, we can look at, if we go to graphs, maybe I've got like 4 different, I've got multiple different clients. I can look at by site. Or if I got like multiple sites that are feeding one client, I can kind of get a percentage breakdown of where they're coming from. Like, okay, like this is coming from this one. This is coming from this other one, right? So it gets really, really powerful, and we're going to keep leveling this up to add more and more information. So from a lead tracking standpoint, you know, like I said, we have 10,000 leads coming through our agency on a monthly basis, and I don't know how I'd run it if I didn't have this in here. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can do once you get this in here to kind of analyze this. One of the cool things that you can also do with this, I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. I think it's pretty underutilized, but as you expand into other cities, let's say that you know, an easy to understand example would be like if you had a swimming pool cleaner in Las Vegas, okay? And then you want to try to, you decide, I'm going to take the show on the road and I'm going to start a swimming pool site in LA. But I don't have any, I don't like, how am I going to advertise these people in LA? I'm going to build my Legion up. Maybe I want to run Facebook ads, right? So I think Facebook has like 50,000 data points on us of just all sorts of creepy stuff that we hope they don't know, but they probably know, right? So we can use that data to try to go into a new market. And this is how you do it. So let's say I've got my Las Vegas pool cleaning, and I'm going to filter by that. So I filter by my pool cleaning site, which there may or may not be one. We'll pretend that this Anthony's Cake Shop is this pool cleaning. So I click on search and I've got my list, right? And then I come up here and I click to export Facebook audience. So I'm going to export this, and it's going to only do the ones that are highlighted here. So it's only going to grab these 434 leads that have come through for pool cleaning in Las Vegas, right? And I'm going to export this to a Facebook audience. And then I'm going to take this information, which has like name, email, maybe address, this type of stuff. And I'm going to upload it into Facebook. And I'm going to say, Facebook, here are the people that I know are my clients. So this is a custom audience. That's what it's called. I'm going to create a custom audience with this stuff. And then I'm going to say, Facebook, I would like to make what's called a lookalike audience based on these people in this other city. So that's where Facebook says, okay, let me look at these 434 people. Let me see if I can match these up to accounts that exist inside Facebook. And if they do, I'm going to look and find out what they have in common. And I can say, Facebook, I'm going to tolerate a 1% difference. So Facebook's going to use those 50,000 creepy data points, and it's going to find people that have stuff in common. So somebody that has a swimming pool, there's a lot of the demographics that's they're going to have in common, right? So it's going to probably eliminate people that are not homeowners, right? Or it's going to eliminate people that are not of a certain income threshold that can afford that. So who knows what they have on it. But this means it's going to shrink our target audience when we go to LA, and it's going to make our ad campaign very targeted on the exact demographic that we want to hit, which is going to make our ad a lot more effective, right? So you can export it that way. You can always export this with whatever columns you want here. I know that we recently had a bug where it wasn't doing that. We fixed that, so that should be working. And if anyone's watching that was dealing with that. So you can choose whatever columns you want. And, from there, you can export it and have that data if you ever wanted to go back to a Google Sheet. But I think once you learn how this works, you're never going to want to use Google Sheets for this again.